The market doesn't know what keeps you up at night. It doesn't know when you want to retire, and it doesn't know how old you are. The simple truth is, the market doesn't care. But if you care, you've tuned into the right place. You're listening to Investor Resources, bringing clarity to the confusing world of finance. Here are your hosts of Investor Resources, Don Creech and Perry Sykes.
This is Don Creech.
And this is Perry Sykes, and welcome to the Investor Resources Podcast.
So you almost can't turn on any news source and not know that the United Auto Workers are on strike. I can't remember in my lifetime when they did not endorse a sitting president who was intending on running for another election, but so far they haven't. And they have numerous complaints, the least of which is not wages and the wage package, and they're asking for a great deal of money because it's been a long time since their contracts have been approved. The last one's apparently without COLAs, so they're way behind the inflation curve. But that's not the underlying problem for their demands. The underlying problem, like the tech bubble back in the late 90s, is government intervention into free markets. Where are they intervening?
Never a good thing. Yeah, never a good thing. Yeah.
All right. I asked the question, where is the intervention? And it's virtually everywhere, but the UAW is worried about electric vehicles.
Right.
Electric vehicles do not require nearly as many parts, nor as much labor to put them together, and enhances the use of automation to make a vehicle. Therein lies a major problem. Who is the biggest car manufacturer in the world? Well, we make a lot of cars here in the United States, but I think it's BYD, and you are probably not driving one. Here in the United States, the winner is Elon Musk.
How about that?
But in China, BYD is his biggest competition because they sell electric vehicles for substantially less money than Elon Musk and Tesla do. And that is coming to the United States. And that's the problem that the big three automakers have. When we were talking about this, I think last week, Perry, you mentioned an article that I'd forgotten all about regarding the dominance of the big three automakers here in the United States.
The dominance of the past. I mean, everybody remembers that the saying used to be, "As GM goes, so goes America," because they used to run the economy, and now the big three are all being bypassed, mostly by Tesla in the United States and Toyota. And Wall Street's predicting within 10 years, there's going to be two car companies left in the U.S., and it's going to be Tesla, Toyota, and General Motors and Ford and Chrysler are going to go away because they're just not making the transition to electric vehicles in a meaningful way that's going to allow them to continue to be profitable. And that gap seems to be getting wider, not narrower. So it's going to be very tough for them to recover. And other countries, I mean, Nissan just pulled out of the electric car market in the U.S. They just said, we cannot market against Tesla. There's no reason to waste money here. We're just leaving. And so GM, Ford, Chrysler, they're all looking at the same problem. Tesla owns that market right now. And until something changes, they're not likely to give up that lead.
Well, and they're losing large money on every one of the EVs they sell. It's something like $10,000 per car is a loss.
Doesn't sound like a good business plan, does it? That's how you get to be number one.
Of course, we can afford to give you a 46% wage increase while we lose more money.
No problem.
There are some people who don't understand the dynamics of what's going on here and think that Ford and GM are value buys at this point in time. And as long as you're not modern portfolio theory long-term investor, they may be a value buy for a brief rally, but not likely for the next 10 or 20 years. That dynamic's changing. The electric vehicle technology is making substantial advances. Now, a lot of them haven't shown up with domestic manufacturers. They are showing up
Correct.
with advancements overseas, both in battery production, in mileage traveled between charges. The charging systems are improving. Tesla is contracting out the charging technology to other companies. They're basically licensing it. It's going
They're
to
going to
be
put it out there
another
for
source
everyone to
of
use.
it's going to be another source of revenue for Tesla.
Yep. Yep.
So what's happened with Tesla in China is they've been forced to drop prices. Well, if they're dropping prices over there, it puts pressure over here, and they've been dropping the US prices. And that means that the losses that domestic manufacturers take on EVs is just going to increase. And if they have to give a massive wage package, those losses are even bigger. So any rally in the car manufacturing stock is probably short-lived. In Europe, the EU is investigating Chinese subsidies to see if the cheap prices that they're using to bring cars to market is a function of government funding, because it's
Right.
destroying the auto industry in Europe. What comes to mind? Volkswagen for starts, Porsche, BMW, Bavarian Motors, and others. And if you have cheap EVs coming in at half your retail cost, you're going to lose the sales. And they're not cheap cars. I remember when Honda first brought what we used to jokingly refer to as a roller skate on wheels, a pregnant roller skate
Correct.
on wheels
Yep.
back in the 70s. And we said, who on earth would ever drive a car that small or
Not to
that
worry.
ugly?
They'll never make it. Yeah, they're not going to make it here. It's never going to happen, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
not
well,
quite. And Europe's worried about the same thing with China. And of course, selling something at a loss in someone else's country is against international law. You can't, it's called dumping. You can't dump your product to steal market share. So, but dealing with China, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to find out the truth about what's going on anyway.
well, that's certainly the case. That goes back to the issue we talked on a prior podcast about having transparency if you're going to be a
Yeah,
world leader,
right.
particularly if you want to overtake the US dollar as currency. And transparency does not exist in China. They do
Not a
have
bit.
other big problems in their economy. But when it comes to the EV business, batteries are a big issue, but that technology
Really
is
big.
making very rapid advances. We're getting
Yep.
more miles between charging. We're getting a reduction in the fire risk, batteries catching on fire because they're dangerous.
It's a good thing,
And that's
right?
that's going to be a technology change. It's not going to be lithium batteries. It's going to be uh, some other source that has a lower fire hazard and a longer charge duration. Presumably, it'll work better in cold weather, which is a major impediment for the northern half of the United States.
That would be a good thing. Yeah, it'll work in freezing weather. We need that.
So demand is rising, and markets, particularly new technology, goes through the speculators with big money. They step in and they say, "That's a great idea. I'll fund you for a while, and if it works, I'll fund you some more." And then we get into a product that actually works, and they test market it, and early
Right.
adopters come in and say, "Well, look what I have. I have the first iPhone. Look how neat this is. Well, I've got the first Tesla in my neighborhood. Look how neat this is." I remember when my youngest son said, "You want to sit in mine? Look at this display panel. This is
Right.
this is really cool." So there's no engine up front. What do you do with that space? Well, he opens it up and it's massive extra trunk space. I mean, it has a lot of attraction. I don't have one. He does. Bought it with his own money, which is great. But the technology for batteries is here, for distance is here, and Tesla, outside of BYD basically, and there's a new company coming out of India whose name slips my mind offhand. But production costs are dropping, which means lower prices are coming. Semiconductors to advance the efficiency of these vehicles is in the mill. That's going to drop production and prices.
It's
And
another really big deal. Yep.
Gen Z and millennials love new technology. For them to go out and buy your father's Buick, that's your great grandfather's Buick, ain't
Yep.
going to happen.
No,
Uh,
not going to happen. Right.
So we are rapidly moving into the mass market stage, which also reduces profitability because prices have to come down in order to make
It
that
becomes a
work.
commodity. Yeah, everybody can sell them. Everybody can buy one. So it's not special anymore, and that does cut down the prices, but it does increase the volume. Everyone's going to be getting one, and like said, Don, the Gen Z folks, they won't even blink. As soon as this is really workable and really purchasable, they're in. They're going to buy them. They're going to buy a lot of them. They're going to buy them fast. It's probably going to happen faster than most people think.
Well, that's one of the problems, bigger problem actually for the UAW, if they continue to expand and extend their strike, is that the life expectancy of cars are much longer. I
Yeah,
remember that when I first started buying cars, it wasn't uncommon to trade a car every 3 years. You had a 3-year lease, you got a new car. 3 years later, you got a new car. Then it was 4 years, you got a new car, but turnover
right.
was hot. Now
And you were
cars
still
last.
sad after the first year. Yeah, after the first year, you were still out of date. Doggone it, I should have waited a year, and you wanted a new one right away because the new model came out. So you had to go buy whatever was new. Marketing's a wonderful thing.
Well, that's changing because of the lifespan of cars. And if the strike continues, you're going to have a slug of population that is not buying a car that
Right.
needs to be replaced now as much as 12 years downstream. That's a massive loss of
Big shift.
sales and
Yep.
repeat sales that are not going to happen. And you're doing that. Fortunately, the millennial generation is a large generation, so there's some time here for that to eventually heal. But in the near term, it's very difficult to see that having a benefit for the automakers.
Right.
The, the theory that this is going to replace fossil fuels, I believe, is a myth. While it may replace the dominant vehicle on the road over time, it is a long way from replacing Caterpillar's need for diesel fuel. It's a
Correct.
long way from replacing the need for fossil fuels for everything that the millennials and the greenie protesters are objecting to because they aren't taking time to realize that from the shoes on their feet, the clothes on their back, the food on their table, and the pharmaceuticals that the doctors are prescribing when they do get ill all require fossil fuel to generate them. And if
Yep.
it goes away completely, if you shut down energy production, modern life comes to a screeching halt and you'll be digging in your backyard to raise your food and you'll be asking to borrow somebody's horse to plow the field. That
It
isn't going
simply
to
can't
happen.
be turned off. Yeah, which is why Elon Musk himself said, if I could turn off the flow of oil today, I wouldn't do it. You can't do it. Society can't run without it right now. That's where we are.
Well, and that's reality. So when you hear EVs are going to be the result of shutting down fossil fuel to save the economy, bad assumption. Replacing the standard vehicle going to happen faster than we think. I like my GMC Suburban and I don't have any plan on replacing it. It has a lot of life left to it. But when those vehicles come up for renewal because it's no longer prudent to put 10 grand of repair into a car that's worth $2,000, EVs are going to be dominating the marketplace. That's reality. Eliminating fossil fuels because you drive an EV is a false footprint. Anyway, that's a short quip as far as EVs and their advancement. They are coming, but it is not the end of fossil fuels.
It's
Pay
going to take a long
attention and
time.
watch for the next link. If you've watched this, we appreciate you subscribing to our podcast. If you want to talk to us, the phone number is on the screen. Thank you very much. Have a great day.